Well, welcome to Northern Lights Spiritual Center. Northern Lights Spiritual Center is a community of people dedicated to using spiritual and practical principles to create lives we want to live. Northern Lights Spiritual Center offers practical and spiritual tools to make positive changes in our lives. We at Northern Lights Spiritual Center acknowledge our presence here on the traditional and unceded lands of the first people of Seattle, the Duwamish and Salish peoples. These people are still here, and we join with them in how they continue to honor and bring to light their ancient heritage. We seek to resist the erasure of indigenous histories as we work towards honoring and inviting the truth. My name is Reverend Vaughan Amaré, and I am here today with Reverend Mykal Amaré. We're co-ministers here at Northern Lights. The founding minister, Reverend Pamela Grace Beatty, is not here today at the moment, but we nevertheless want to acknowledge and celebrate her. She will be speaking next week. So we will have the amazing Reverend Pamela Grace Beatty and her awesome practitioner, Stephanie Scranton. Please join me for our opening song in this very room. In this very room, there's quite enough love for all the world. And in this very room, there's quite enough joy for all the world. And there's quite enough peace and quite enough power to walk through our every fear. For Spirit, sweet Spirit, is in this very room. In this very room.
So for today's meditation, I'm going to play a mantra. Seeing Reverend Vaughan is focusing on God and I are one, Spirit and I are one. And this is from a service that Reverend Edward Vaughan, who is our spiritual leader, our community spiritual leader, did in a service down in where's he at?
San Jose.
No. Santa Rosa. I know it was one of them. Many years ago, and I kept this because it was, to me, it was very powerful. And so I just want you, if you want to chant along with it, it is, there is one life. That's just God's life. This life is perfect. That life is my life now. And it's a repetition of that. So please allow yourself to get comfortable, or as comfortable as you can get. And if you choose so, close your eyes.
I think we sit every morning think that life is my life now. There is only one. Drop a deep well of awareness here. It goes like this. There is only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There is only one life. That life is
life is my life now. There is only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There is only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There is only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There is only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There is only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There is only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There is only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There is only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There is only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There is only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There is only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There is only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There is only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There is only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There is only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There is only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There is only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There is only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There is only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There is only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There is only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There is only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now.
O lover of my soul, O keeper of my spirit, none can separate us, for we are one. O lover of my soul, and keeper of my spirit, nothing can separate us. We are one. O lover of my soul, and keeper of my spirit, nothing can separate us. We are one. We are one. We are one. Nothing can separate us. In the infinity of life where I am, all is whole and perfect, for the full presence of the Almighty is present in me. And in this openness I find in my heart the compassion to declare a blessing upon the rulers of the people and nations of this earth, that they may be so closely united with that friend and lover of their soul that their choices and decisions may be guided from within, in harmony with love, truth, and peace. And I speak a word of blessing for those people everywhere who are suffering, who are hurting, so that the love that is present in this room may be extended, may be felt and harmonized with. And most of all, I claim for myself and for each person who is praying this prayer with me, that through this meditation and prayer that we become more perfect vehicles for the expression of God's love in this world, so that that which is the kingdom of heaven may begin to be expressed on earth through what we do, what we say, through the meditations of our heart and the actions that we commit to in this world. In gratitude for this moment of prayer, unification that causes every single thing to be and to give thanks. And so it is. Amen.
And so it is.
Ask the
Challenge here. Maybe they didn't hear it, I don't know. This doesn't, okay. They hate doing it this way. And now for the reading. I apologize for if there was any technical difficulty there. And today's reading is from this thing called You by Earnest Holmes. You are to know that good keeps you in perfect activity, surrounds you with love and friendship, and brings the experience of joy to everything you do. You are to impart an atmosphere of confidence and faith which uplifts and enlightens everything in your environment. It is only as you live affirmatively that you can be happy. Knowing that there is but one spirit in which everyone lives, moves, and has his being, you are to feel the spirit not only in your consciousness, but in your affairs. You are to hold conscious communion with the Spirit in humanity. In a hand clasp, you can feel its warmth and color. In exchange of thought, you are to feel the presence of the divine. You are to sense it in everything. You are united with all. You are united to all, eternal light itself. The presence of Spirit within you blesses everyone you meet, tends to heal everything you touch, brings gladness into the life of everyone you contact. Therefore, you are a blessing to yourself, to mankind, and to the day in which you live. And say, today I uncover the perfection within me. In its fullness I reveal the indwelling kingdom. I look out upon the world of my affairs, knowing that the Spirit within me awakens my way both immediate and easy. I know that there is nothing in me that could possibly obstruct or withhold the divine circuit of life and love which God is, which good is. My word dissolves every negative thought and impulse that could throw a shadow over my perfection. Good flows through me to all. Good shines through my thoughts and actions. Good harmonizes my body so that in its revitalization and manifests perfection in every cell, in every organ, in every function. Good harmonizes my mind so that love sings joyously in my heart. I am completely conscious of all good in me, around me, and in all that is. I am in complete unity with good. I have complete confidence in my knowledge and understanding of the law of good. I not only know what the law is, I know how to use it. I know that I shall obtain definite results through the use of it. I realize that doubts about my ability to use this law are things of thought. What thought has produced? Thought can change. Knowing this, having confidence in my ability to use the law, and using it daily for specific purposes, gradually I build up unshakable faith, both in the law and the possibility of the demonstrating it. There is no doubt in me, no uncertainty rising through me. My mind rejoices in certainty and in assurance. I confidently expect that my word shall not return unto me void. Therefore, today I declare that the law of the Lord is perfect in everything I do. I will externalize happiness. I will bring every good to me. Today, I am inwardly aware that there is a secret way to the soul. There is a secret pathway to peace. There is an invisible presence forever externalizing itself for me and through me. Today I believe in divine guidance. Today I believe that underneath are the everlasting arms. Today I rest in a divine assurance and this divine security. And so it is.
We'll try this again. So again, hello. This month's chant, I'll review the words for you, and I think Mykal has it so you can see it. I've heard a wave in the oceans contains all that the oceans are. I've learned that what makes up my body comes from the substance of stars, near and far. I am the universe's glory. I tell the universe's story. I forget when I think I am small, yet the cosmos tells me, recall, I am one with all. I've heard a wave in the oceans contains all that the oceans are. I've learned that what makes up my body comes from the substance of stars. Near and far, I am the universe's glory. I tell the universe's story. I forget when I think I am small, yet the cosmos tells me recall. I am one with all. Now you've heard a wave in the oceans contains all that the oceans are. You've learned that what makes up your body comes from the substance of stars. Near and far, I am the universe's glory. You tell the universe's story. You forget when you think you are small, yet the cosmos tells you recall. You are one with all. Now we've heard a wave in the oceans contains all that the oceans are. We've learned of stars near and far. I am the universe's glory. I tell the universe's story. I forget what I think. I'm too small. But the cosmos tells me all. I am one with all. Stop screen share, isn't it?
No,
Oh, sorry.
because you want the music again. Let me get it first. What was the name of it?
It's Eddie Watkins.
I don't know.
There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now.
One life. Is that it?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So, hello again. Today, the topic is inextricably connected. And Mykal was reluctant to say the word inextricably connected because inextricable is a tongue twister. Another thing that was said earlier in the message that Reverend Edward Vaughan pronounced was that there are things that are inexplicable, and you've got inexplicable and inextricable, and so Mykal was getting a little bit lost in the inexplicableness of it all. The big thing about inextricable, it more simply put, means that it cannot be separated. It cannot be pulled apart. So it's a fundamental core belief that Centers for Spiritual Living and Science of Mind proposes. One of the things about this religious philosophical orientation is it's about trying on hypotheses. What if we believe that there is just one life? How does that change how we move through the world? How does that invite us to engage with the world? Now, the message that you heard, hopefully heard in the meditation, because I'm not sure how well that came through, and one of the things that was sung in the song by Eddie Watkins Jr. is actually a prayer that the founder of religious science, which turned into Centers for Spiritual Living, identified. Ernest Holmes stated, there's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. What I'd like us to do is, I'm going to use that as a template for us for a couple different things. One, it's a simple spiritual practice to try on just pulling out that mantra at a point in time when we may not feel connected. To propose that we're connected can fly in the face of things that we feel when we see things happen in the world. Was it just this week that another African American man was shot? He had been tased a couple times, and as his body was convulsing, the cop shot him because the convulsing body looked threatening to the cop. Now, it's very hard to feel oneness in a world with people that are so overtly lacking in skill. There was a group that was taken under arrest by the FBI. They had plotted the kidnap of the governor of Michigan. They were going to pull her to Wisconsin and have a trial for her to then proceed to execute her. I don't know about you, but I know that there seems to be so many crazy people and crazy things in the world that it can feel very challenging to have a sense of oneness. That there's only one life. And we can appreciate diversity, and it can be a huge challenge to us when diversity presents in such a way that feels so counter to the very practice of living. You know, when people get away with murder, when people continue to do harmful things, when people advance ideas that hurt other people, it's one of those things that can feel very challenging. So I take us through the notions of what Ernest Holmes proposed in this prayer. There's only one life. In the face of the feeling that we're so separated and that we're filled in a world with such craziness, returning to the roots, returning to seeking a sense of oneness. Okay, Spirit, I don't get how this works. And this seeking is not anything new. You know, one of the best documented religious experiences is from the Hebrew people. They're really one of the only peoples that have ever, they've been very forthright about being defeated, being taken over. Becoming enslaved in Egypt was not like a high point or a celebratory experience. So all through the Old Testament or the Torah, there are these experiences of ups and downs. And for me, it makes a huge signpost to say that even when I feel like I'm losing, even when I feel like things are not going my way, that doesn't mean that life has ended. That doesn't mean that the divine has stopped being present. But it may call on me to look for it more deeply. So, with that first thing, there's only one life. And that notion that spirit is all there is. There's only life. The spiritual practice that I'm going to ask us to call on is to find that aspect, that quality of the divine, which we can tap into. So even in the face of injustice, even in the face of sickness, even in the face of separation, even in the face of discouragement and depression and despair, what quality of the divine can we personally access? Maybe it's beauty. Maybe it's truth. You know, maybe in the midst of lies pouring down on us, we hold on to the fact that there is truth. Maybe in the face of sickness and maybe in the face of death, we can come back to the value of life, come back to the presence of life. Whatever is before us, how do we find our way to the experience and to the expression of the divine? So if we say there's only one life, how do each of us personally tap in to how that life manifests for us? And what I would propose is that it may show up differently at different times. You know, maybe there's a time when beauty is our touch point to the divine. I've talked about this before, but one of my teachers in ministerial school said for her that getting in touch with beauty was the easiest way to get back to the divine. And as a result, she was very deliberate about making sure that there was something beautiful that she could look at any time. So she made it a point in her life to have something beautiful in every room where she would be. If she was going to her car, she had a picture that was beautiful. Maybe she was driving through an industrial region to get where she was going, but she had something beautiful in her car to remind her. Now, I just give that as an example. What is it that really makes us thrive? What is it that drives us on? What is it that fills us with something that lets us know that creation is bigger than ourselves and what we are experiencing. The second line is that life is God's life, the life that we're in. Now, I have stopped actually reciting this because for me, the word God has overtones of a masculinity that kind of was soaked in a misogynistic patriarchy. So my choice instead is Spirit's thriving life. So there's only one life, Spirit's thriving life. Can I keep returning to Spirit's thriving life? Because even whatever is happening in the world, Spirit's life is still going on. We live in a universe that is expanding at a rate that is beyond comprehension. The universe is getting bigger and bigger and bigger every moment that we are around. Those most distant stars are expanding all around all of creation. For me, that's a way of thinking about the thriving of the divine. How do we reconnect ourselves with a divine that is expanding, that is bigger and growing greater? What does it mean to keep holding in mind and heart and soul that the divine is so much bigger than we can ever fathom? For me, one of the things that it does is it brings me face to face with the notion of mystery. When something is mysterious, there are aspects of it that are unknowable. And it's beyond what I can wrap my mind around. It's beyond what I can wrap my heart around. It's beyond what I can wrap my soul around. How do we connect ourselves with that which is ever expanding? So to shift from there's only one life, and that life is God's life. That life is this expanding, thriving spirit which is moving at a rate that is faster than we can imagine. And that brings us to the third line in this chant. That life is perfect. Now I want to speak especially to this notion of perfect. When I was little, the notion of perfect meant that I did everything right. Did any of you ever have that notion that if it's perfect, that I've done it right? Mom and dad are pleased. The teacher is pleased. The priest is pleased. The minister is pleased. People are pleased. I must be pleasing to God. The only problem with that notion of perfection is that it's the perfection on this task. And this task is just way more limited than anything that I now look at as an adult. This notion of perfection, that it's the completion of a task, when we hold on to that image, it connects with all kinds of problems. Because have we ever heard that being a perfectionist might not be the best thing in the world for us? That being perfectionistic, it's not usually a compliment. Aren't you perfectionistic? Aren't you perfectionistic? It kind of carries with it the notion that you're never satisfied. That you can't get happy. that nothing is ever good enough. Now, I've wrestled about this, but Spirit has said go ahead with it. I have to say that this notion of perfection is what irritates me so much about our current president. And I would say what annoys me so much about our current president is that this individual sees himself as perfect. He sees himself as complete. He sees himself as the epitome of what it means to be a being in the world. To be the epitome of winning. Do you remember the idea? America's so great. You're going to get tired of how great it is. You're going to get tired of this great experience. And what I find so irritating about this notion of perfection is that I've lived out that same notion, that I am complete, that I am the end point. And that's what's so irritating. This individual points out to me how I used to be and how sometimes I fall back into it. Something happens and I'm like, well, I wouldn't do it that way. I would never do it that way. I mean, I think I've talked about it. I know Mykal hears it. I'll read a colleague's report where they assessed a student and I'm like, I can't believe they did this. You've got to hear this. Oh my gosh, can you believe what they said? And Mykal just nods and smiles because what I'm saying is so esoteric, it's so specific that it really doesn't matter to anybody else in the whole wide world except me reading it. I'll look at this and I'll see that the child has 3 disabilities, but they only found 1. And they're only identifying 1. And what were they thinking? Only identifying 1. Well, there's so much more service available if they identified more. That's my inner Trump. That's my inner Trump seeing myself as perfect. So Trump has been a huge growing opportunity for me because it's a mirror on my own sense of I am perfect. And the way I see the world is perfect, and my thoughts about the world are perfect, and really, I don't need any adjustment. I would say that that's the biggest thing that's so difficult. This is a president who the words just cannot come out of his mouth, connected to his heart. I'm sorry. I apologize. He met with those Gold Star families, and then he accuses them of the source of his infection. I was meeting with them, and they wanted to hug me, and they wanted to kiss me, and I'm a leader, so I wouldn't push them away. So I was going to blame the Gold Star families. I hope the amount of expression on my face is visible. That it's just stunning to me that out of all of the possible things, that the reason for him getting sick is the Gold Star families. None of my own me. How often am I willing to blame someone else and not take any responsibility? And it's just the ugliest mirror to have to look back into. To see where am I willing to accept responsibility and where am I not. So I use this as an illustration because I don't think I'm the only one who gets irritated by other people in the world. And I'm using Donald Trump as an illustration because every day in the news is something new that Donald Trump has done. It's continual. It's like Chinese water torture, the drip, 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 drip. There's a point where it's like, oh, he raped someone, no big deal. He had an affair with someone. Everybody does that. He put little children in cages like animals. Oh, that's so cute. There's a notion where it just gets so... the reports are, there's new reporting, and it's just like so much of the country is inured to it. It's just like, oh, really? He's done that? That's, how is that a big deal in relation to other things? Will you say that white supremacy is a problem? No. That's the silent screaming. I took a course years ago on nonviolent compassionate language, and the teacher of the course, Marshall Rosenberg, taught us about the notion of screaming a giraffe. And the thing is that the giraffe has no voice. So to scream in giraffe, sometimes it feels so good. The giraffe also has the largest heart of any land mammal. How do I let this make my heart bigger? The spiritual practice in our perfectionism is something that we've talked about before called the Jokari's window. And it's that there are things that we know about ourselves and that there are things that others know about us. There are things that, so that's kind of that first quadrant. What I know about myself and what others know. There are things that are known by others, but not by me. There are things that others know things, but I don't know them. There are things that I know that others don't know about myself. And then there's that bottom quadrant of it, which is that notion of, I don't know it, and you don't know it, and nobody knows it. It's this mystery. So, this notion that life is perfect, this life is perfect. It's not that we've gotten 100% on our paper. It's not that we've achieved the task at 100%. It's about, how do I keep pushing back? How do I keep pushing into greater self-knowledge? The questions to ask at that point of that life is perfect are, when do we choose to remain unconscious? When do we choose to remain asleep? There are certainly times that it's just so much more comfortable not knowing and not caring that we don't know. Several years ago, Mykal and I went to a conference on social justice. And I've talked about this before, but we very deliberately picked the one that sounded the most kind of freak us out thing, which was white fragility. I didn't really want to hear about white fragility. It just sounds nasty. And it was probably one of the most eye-opening experiences, because it got me to recognize how many places have I just blandly and blindly walked through my life without recognizing. Prior to that conference on white fragility, one of my favorite series of movies was The Lord of the Rings. I went to that workshop, and then I'm like, I can't watch it anymore, because everyone that is white is good. Everything that is dark or black was bad. It was just global. But it had never been brought to my attention, and so I could, before that, I could unconsciously go through those movies and be like, oh, it's so great, I love it. I love what J.R.R. Tolkien presented to the world. And it's not that I don't love what J.R.R. Tolkien presents to the world, but Peter Jackson had some major issues. I mean, how hard would it have been to have a Hobbit of color? Was that impossible? Well, it was outside of their imagining, because they were thinking of England. So one of the things that, while J.K. Rowling's is kind of on my not great list, her book and the presentation in the films is an England which is hugely diverse. So, that life is perfect. We keep changing. And as the universe is expanding, perfection is about mimicking that growth of the universe. it's about holding in mind that the universe grows at an exponential rate in all directions through time and space. And that can be our spirit. That can be the way that divine life is expressing through us. That we can be places of more perfection. Finally, in this mantra, there's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. Many of us can find it easy to imagine sometime in the future. Not now, but sometime in the future. Or sometime in the past. I know that Reverend Pamela has been called in as a consultant, and organizations either want her to reestablish what they had sometime and figure out how it is that they had it and bring it back, or they've got this mission, they've got this goal that they want to get to, and they want her to deliver them to that land. But in her efforts to deliver them, they want to get out of the now that they're in as freaking quickly as they possibly can. They want to think that they're all hip. They want to think that they're all fly. But they're not. And my life now. This life is my life now. The life of perfection, the life of wholeness, the life of presence, the life of spirit is right here now. And it's not necessarily easy. I should have looked this up, where I could give you the actual percentage of time that we're focused on the future, that we're focused on the past, and that we're not living in the now. But I don't know that giving you statistics about it is going to mean any more than to simply just ask, am I watching where I'm at and when I'm at? The spiritual practice in that last line, am I open to this moment right here, right now? Or am I anticipating where I can be when this dude stops his yammering and I get to go someplace else? Or daydreaming about something that's happened before. So, a song that Eddie Watkins Jr. had us learn when he was the choir director at Center for Spiritual Living in Seattle. There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. Now, I've rewritten it for my own purposes, but you can all do that, or if you want to join me, one all-abiding life, spirit's thriving life, becomes more perfect. That life is my life now. One all-abiding life, spirit's thriving life, becomes more perfect, lives as my life now. One all-abiding life, spirit's thriving life, becomes more perfect, lives as my life now. This mantra can bring us back, can let us disengage from being so stuck, so bound to our anger or our fear or our worry. And it can help us lift up. It can help us rise above. so much that's happening. So again, just in simple recap, one all-abiding life. There is one inextricable life. We cannot be disconnected from it. And even when we're no longer living in this plane, when we pass on, our physical bodies are still part of this world. And there's nobody that really knows what happens to our souls. Spirit's thriving life, that expanding universe, forever expanding. If it's happening in the universe, what if we hold that in mind as how the divine is operating? That it's ever expanding. That it's ever moving. Becoming more perfect. Not that it's satisfied 100% on a test or a task, but that perfection is that pushing into the mystery. And it's becoming more wise and becoming more whole, and it's becoming more good, and it's becoming more beautiful, and it's becoming more gracious, and it's becoming more kind and more compassionate. That we are pushing against all of the former binding beliefs and pushing back against them. And finally, living as my life now, that all of creation, what if it's living as us? What if we let ourselves be the means through which life, which love, which beauty, which grace, which kindness, which compassion manifests in the world? And to choose it right here, right now. And so I conclude saying, and so it is.
Okay, I would like to thank everyone that's joined us today on Zoom or on Facebook. And if you would like to contribute to Northern Lights Spiritual Center, just go to northernlightspiritualcenter.com and just hit the donate button. And by doing that, you are contributing to the center that we have created, that has been created here. And each person that has been part of this center, whether before we were in this space or whenever, has been a contributor. Your presence is a contribution. Your life is a contribution not only to the center, but to the universe. And so I give thanks for everything that has ever been given in whatever way has come through. Because when the giving comes from the heart, that is the best, to me, the best giving there is. For that example in the Bible when the woman gave 1 cent, and I believe it was Jesus said, well, where it came from. You know, you could give $1 million, and if you just did it just to do it, or just to think you're somebody special in order to do that, where it comes from counts. And to me, it means something. So I give thanks for everything that's ever been given. I give thanks for everyone that's ever come to Northern Lights Spiritual Center, whether it's virtual or in physical form. And I give thanks for Reverend Vaughan's talk today on this life that is perfect now. That's one thing I took out of it, because we live so much in the past or the future. And I can look at my life and look at it now and see that the perfection in it. And I give thanks for that. And I give thanks for being in this sacred space with each of you, whether it's physical or not. And so I give thanks for this time together, and so it is. And next week we'll be here, same time, same station. Thank you.